Hey, welcome to Info on the Go, the show that keeps you informed, inspired, and in the know. I am joined by Samson McCormick, and there is a new video that has been posted about a lot of people upset technically regarding their decision that they voted in this past election. I don't like to be the person that just tells you what's going on. I like the people to show you what's actually happening. They speak on camera, they speak to CNN, they speak to Fox News. And so I like to see what you actually think about their decision of voting. So we're going to watch a video real soon.
If you could say anything to President Trump now, what would you say?
I expected better from you. I really did. I expected that you would do what was right and cut waste and fraud and all of those things that you promised us before we elected you in office, but you're not doing that. You're creating a disaster, and I don't know what America's going to look like if this continues.
Did you ever think that your job would be impacted in a Trump administration?
No, absolutely not.
Jennifer Piggott was abruptly fired from her job at the Treasury Department's Bureau of Fiscal Service here in Parkersburg, West Virginia, along with 124 other probationary employees. She voted for Donald Trump and thought her government job would be safe.
But to cut the knees out of the working class Americans just it doesn't make sense to me. It's what's the checking account look like, babe? We went through our list of items on our budget and said, what can we get rid of? And we've gotten rid of all of those things, including cable. I had my last review on the 31st of January, and I had the highest rating that you can get on a review, less than 21 days before I was terminated for my performance.
On top of losing her job, Jennifer is facing backlash from both Democrats and Republicans for speaking out. She's received death threats and more.
Our home's been egged. They've hacked my Instagram and posted horrible things about my deceased mother.
If you could say anything to President.
So, what do you think of this?
Okay, so we have to look at the facts again. It was a probationary job, which means it was a job that may or may not have been put in place for whatever period of time. In this case, it seemed like it was already a short-term position, and it was based on a probationary period, and they decided the department wasn't needed. And so I guess she thought that some sort of way Trump would magically know that she was in there and voted for him. And I mean, this would have happened no matter who was in office, unless they just, wanted to spend a bunch of money on some random department. And apparently, the government didn't think that that particular department was necessary. So it was already a probationary department. So, we need to go in maybe and do some more research on that. But the fact that it was probationary says you should have been looking for another job anyway.
And that's what gets me is that everybody, people say, "Oh, I voted for eggs and milk." I said, I'm from Kansas and Missouri. I grew up in foster care. I lived in these houses with white folks. I was raised by
Yeah.
them. I know it wasn't about eggs and milk. I said, people always saying, "Oh, I said it was never about eggs and milk." I said, you're forgetting people don't like to compete for actual jobs or whatever. So of course they're sitting there like, hey, I don't want to compete. I want to just be able
Yeah.
to get the job.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, I know why so the Republicans of course are targeting her because they're like, oh, you need to ride it out and stick with us. This is what you voted for. The Democrats is like, okay, the writing was on the wall.
Yeah.
Did you not read Project 2025? Did you not see what was happening? And it's like everything was written for them. So, like, what do you think in terms of that?
Again, with things like that, I don't get too rattled by things that I see politically. I think it is our responsibility. Our lives are our own responsibility and where we are in our communities. And so that's what I keep my focus on. And I think, of course, for most Americans, probably anybody in the world, but we're talking about Americans, it can probably be really challenging to build up some sort of reserves of finances or whatever for a rainy day. But you should always keep your head on a swivel no matter who's in office. A lot of us voted for Obama and thought he was going to do stuff for Black people, and he did not.
Well,
So
it was
he
hard for
did
him to
not.
do it though. It was hard though.
I
You
don't.
know how it works.
It doesn't. I say that
everybody
to
forget.
say. I
No.
say that to say it does not matter who is in office.
Yeah.
You can't depend on that. And so again, we thought Obama was going to do this and that, and we still had to make it happen. And so that should also apply to Trump or anybody else who gets
But
in office.
how
Keep
could
your
he
head
have
on a
done that?
swivel.
How could he have done that? Because you guys, I keep telling everybody, there's three branches of government.
Yes.
Everybody keeps forgetting. Everybody's focused on the president all the time.
The executive.
You have the executive, that's his branch, the judicial, and then you
and
have
legislative.
Yeah, and I said, everybody's forget Congress. I said, he can say, hey, let's do this bill. If he don't get enough votes from Congress, it don't matter what you can say. You can say, hey, I'm gonna cut everybody's taxes in half or whatever that you have to pay. If it don't get approved by Congress, it ain't happening. I don't care how powerful the president thinks he is. Now you have Trump, who's able to do things because he owns both the judicial and the legislative branch. And it's the House and the Senate. And I said, and during Obama's time, and even during Biden's time, you had either the Democrats had the House or they had the Senate, and then either the Republicans had the House or they had the Senate. So it was always a clash, and you're not going to get a lot of things approved unless some people jump from over there to over here.
Yeah.
So that's why I tell people, I said, at the end of the day, I said that's the thing that currently happens. That Obama was going to be able to get a lot done because they were never going to allow him to do that in the first place.
Well, I mean, of course, if you have an opposing Congress, it doesn't matter who's in office, that's going to happen. So say during our next election cycle that the Democrats take control, then of course it's going to be a back and forth again. So it really doesn't matter who's in there when it comes.
If they get full control, that's the problem. There's never full control. I always tell people, that's why I said history was one of the best subjects in school, because people don't understand how the government really works.
Yeah.
They can say whatever they want, but if you don't get both the House and the Senate to agree, I don't care what happens, it's never going to work. So I tell people you have to do it that way. And during both Biden's and Obama's time, either they controlled the House or they controlled the Senate. They didn't control both. This is why Trump's able to do anything he wants now, because
I think, maybe Democrats would be able to have that if they knew how to fight and
they too weak.
Know how to fight. The thing about Republicans is, you like him or not, but Trump, if people start issuing lawsuits or whatever, he starts writing executive orders. If you try to sue me, I will do this. And that's the type of fighting that Democrats need to do if they want to win. And also focus less on, this
holding up signs and wearing pink. I was like,
pink.
What the hell is going on there?
Pink and blue hair and pronouns, and let that go and focus more on stuff that the average American can relate to. And find common ground there, and then expand a little bit. But this radicalization of identity politics is really costing people who are leaning more Democrat right now.
And in addition to that, another thing that gets me is that I always tell people I'm independent, because like you stated before, neither the Democrats or Republicans really done nothing for Black people. I said we're usually I said we still don't have anti-lynching bills, but people can get upset.
Well, they just passed them less than 10 years ago.
But some states did not pursue, like Alabama, Mississippi still got them. That's why when you see all these, unalive people there, they don't care. I mean, the cops are not invested. They're probably even involved in it. As we've seen, a lot of the police and stuff is involved, like the recent incident that happened in Georgia. I don't know if you've seen it, but it was these two kids that were going to the airport in Atlanta. They were 90 miles out. And I said, come on now, with 2 plane tickets, they just magically went the other way and unalived themselves. I said, you can't be that stupid. It's just things like that. And that's why I tell people, for me, I either way, I do agree. It does not benefit Black people. Until they give us reparations, I don't care about nothing else.
Well, that's not going to happen either.
That ain't going to happen. And it's sad, because every group, if you look at the history, and I love history, the Italians got reparations. They got reparations. There was this is when they were being targeted, when they were not considered white at the time. In 1899, they were being like hung and things of that nature, right? So they got reparations years later. Same with the Jews. They got reparations out here. They just passed another reparations bill in New York, and I think it was for like I think it was 153 million or something. It was all in the news. And I said, but that happened in Germany. Why are we paying reparations to? It didn't make any sense to me. That was another one. Native Americans, they got their reparations. They got, they have
So
their
they got land and casinos
casinos.
and yeah.
And I said, you mean to tell me even the Japanese, everybody's forgetting during World War II, the Japanese, when they joined the Axis powers, which was Germany at the time, the Americans was like, okay, well, if that's the case, all Asians are going to be put in these concentration camps. So they put them in concentration camps. People don't know this, but they were put in concentration camps. And if people review this, it's public information. Years later, they got reparations because it was like, we were American. We didn't have no involvement in that, even though we're Japanese or Asian or whatever, but they just grouped them all together. Only group they ain't got is Black people.
Do you want to know the difference between Black people and each of those other groups that you named?
Go tell me.
Black people are the only people who beg everybody else to take our money. You don't see any of those other groups begging groups outside of their own to take their money. You never hear anything about Asians going down to
very true.
Target going, oh, take our money, please, DEI, please.
Mm-hmm.
You never hear Latinos doing that. You certainly don't hear Jews doing it. We are the only group of people who beg other people to support us and help us build community when that's our responsibility. And then once we reestablish the Black dollar amongst our own culture, we need to learn how to move that money politically. We're the only group who does not do that. And money equals politics. Politics is business. When Black people, who are the most financially illiterate group of people in this country, learn how to become more financially literate, how to support other Black people who are doing well, and establish businesses and systems to support other Black people who don't have the wherewithal to do that, and teach them skills, or either simply give them enough money to make sure that they are able to live comfortably, and make sure we're circulating that money and learn how to withhold it until we get what we want. Then things will change. But we are the only group who, every holiday season rolls around, they start rolling out Juneteenth ice cream, Black History Month, this and that. And we go and we spend a lot of money on this stuff. And then if a person in our own neighborhood is doing it, we go, can I have it for free?
Oh my God.
Can I get a discount? I don't like the way the color is. I don't like the way. And that says a lot about the value that Black people have about ourselves. We create culture. American culture is Black culture. Anything that you see in this country was made by Black people. And do you know who makes money off of it? Everybody except for Black people. This is the problem that I had with white liberals, is because white liberals will fuck Black. Can I say that on here?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, white liberals will fuck Black people. They move into our neighborhoods and talk that shit to us. Oh, I love the culture. Can you teach me how to cornrow? Can you teach me how to fry chicken? Can you teach me how to play double dutch? And they do all that. And then they open a center where they teach other white women how to do this shit. Okay.
Unseasoned, may I add?
Yeah. they teach everybody our culture. They move into our communities. They buy up all the property. They know people be broke. So they know a house that's been in somebody's family for 2 or 3 generations. They're broke because they're not financially literate. So they'll take $500,000 for it. But they don't know that house is worth $3 or $4 million.
Yeah.
These white people move into it. They come in, they take all these houses and properties that are in historically Black neighborhoods. Black people move out to the suburbs, so they can't get to the cities where the jobs at and shit are. They get on county assistance. I much rather have a white person say, you stay your Black ass over there and I'm gonna stay over here. Those aren't the white people moving into our neighborhoods taking stuff. It's the white people telling us, oh yeah, we're for Black Lives Matter. We love Black people. They're the ones taking our shit, not MAGA, not Republicans, not people, not white people who don't want shit. They don't want to see you. They don't want you in their neighborhood. I much rather have those type of white people that say, you stay over there, I stay over here, than
Because you know
somebody
where they
smiling.
stand.
You know where they
You know
stand.
where they
But
stand.
you got people moving in your neighborhood, you know, and they have the money to come in and do things that many people in our neighborhoods aren't financially smart enough to do or band together and do. That's more harmful than somebody calling us the N-word.
Yes. And I tell people, you know, there's two things. You stated with Black people supporting Black people, and then you also stated, oh, well, there's a thing I'm going to state as well. With Black people supporting Black people, this is how it needs to work, though. If we're gonna support each other, like there's like these restaurants, especially in LA and some in Atlanta as well, the attitude got to go.
True.
I'm not trying to you rolling your eyes and smacking your lips and listen. Do you want my money or not? I'm not going to put this restaurant on blast, but in the future, I may if they continue their practices because when I come in there, I don't need to have an attitude. I don't need to have you rolling your eyes. It's this attitude like they don't need our money. And then when we don't support them, oh, everybody now come to support. I said, you got to change your attitude.
Mm-hmm.
I said, because when these white customers come in, oh, I've seen it. Oh, is there anything else we want for you? Is there? I was like, really? Like, what just happened to rolling? Give them the same you gave us. Roll the eyes and give them the full experience. Don't give them this new experience that you didn't give us. You know what I mean?
It's Black people have a lack of value for each other.
But we do.
Black people have a lack of value. We need to work on valuing ourselves more. You know, when you tell Black people stop killing each other, they go, "Oh, well." The common excuse for that is you kill where you are, and this is true, but not at the rate that Black people do.
Oh yeah.
There is a lack of value that Black people have for how great we are, for how much we contribute, for how beautiful we are, for our lives, you know, for everything that it is that we truly have, you know. And it's crazy because everybody sees it except for us.
Yes.
This dates back to when Africa was colonized and when Blackness was colonized. We were colonized by people who had zero culture, they had
Yes.
zero. And do you know how insecure you have to be as I don't even want to call it a culture, but as a collective to basically say we are on this hierarchy the best when you have contributed and created nothing but terrorism. And that's it. And you come to a groups of people who before experiencing that were trading ethically. I mean, of course, there was slavery and stuff like that, but not the brutality that existed after colonialism.
Yeah, and especially
it's we were always we weren't, what is it, xenophobic. We weren't xenophobic.
Yeah.
We were always experiencing other cultures and very welcoming, and visited each other's lands and stuff. We were certainly in America before Columbus.
Oh yeah.
You know,
before then.
But somewhere in there, it's Black people have stopped valuing Black people. We love Black people. Stop killing us. See us, and we crave white people's validation so bad.
Oh yeah.
We want white people's validation before other Black people's validation, which I don't understand. And I'm not, and one of those in the race and all that type of stuff. But why would you want the validation of people who don't understand why we need Black History Month? They don't understand Black music. They don't understand Black culture, any of this stuff. And you want them to go, "Oh yeah, I get it. You deserve to live."
Yeah, I keep telling people, and I tell people I love history. You have to know history. One thing is like with Tulsa, Oklahoma, for example.
Yeah.
Tulsa, that wasn't the only Black Wall Street.
That was a trend throughout the country.
Yeah, it was. And I said, but the problem is when we do create our own stuff, guess who coming? The whites. They even when we have a barbecue, they could be 5 miles down the road. Oh, I see them barbecuing. I gotta call the police. Oh, I gotta go over. It's just like, and back then, just to hear what my grandma used to tell me about how they were terrorized. They said we had doctors, lawyers, banks, we had all of our own stuff. We had to build it from scratch. Everybody always talk about pull yourselves up by your bootstraps. It's that term. And she says we would see that, you know, the other minorities and the whites will get all these subsidies and loans, and we weren't getting that, so we were supporting ourselves. Eventually, somebody white come over and then they say, oh, you said something to a white man or a white woman, and they come and they tear up and kill everybody. And she said, what got me the most was that all these reputable insurance companies and banks and stuff that we used to bank with, they didn't pay out any of our claims. Some of these companies that still exist today, they didn't pay out any of our refund our stuff. She said none of this, our stuff was refunded. And she says that, you know, they just got away with it. And then she said we would see these same people that came and burnt up our house and killed our people. They're wearing our jewelry that was in the house and our heirlooms. And she said we would just see them walking down the street. And I was like, that's horrible. Just to hear the stories my grandma used to tell me. And that's why I was like, and black people don't deserve reparations. I said, everybody was talking about slavery. I said, this was the 50s, the 60s, the 20s. And she said the stuff that we experienced was just unreal.
And the problem with black people is this, and I'm not, you know, justifying any sort of racial violence or anything like that, but we have an easier time killing each other because you came to my hood and you ain't have on the right color than somebody breaking into some elderly black people's houses who have worked all their lives and stole their shit.
Yeah.
The fact that we have not burnt this country down speaks a lot to, you know, our tolerance for pain and also our tolerance for foolishness. We're the only culture who has not done that. We did not see any true debates take place to end slavery until we saw people like Nat Turner. That's when Lincoln finally said, wait a minute, because this is going to start to spread.
Yeah.
And this is going to fuck up everything for everybody for real.
But it was concealed through history. Like I tell people, you got to know history, because even where people, it's like, oh, the slaves, they worked in the fields and all that, but they never talked about all the uprisings. It wasn't just Nat Turner. There was so many
constant uprisings. It was very violent.
It was very violent, and everybody forget that. And it was like, you know, there was a lot of wars that happened, and even when there was Louisiana was where a lot of it happened at, and they said there was so many of the white slave owners that was afraid of the slaves. They said, oh, something just happened at Wilson's house. They murdered everybody. They kept all that out of the books. And just to know that that's how some of the laws passed, it wasn't by, oh, you know, Lincoln was a great person. Now you're starting to see everything for what it really is.
It was about business. It was about these people will destroy the entire business structure, financial structure of this country if we don't stop this and reframe slavery.
Oh, yeah, because we were going into the Industrial Revolution. And everybody's forgetting that. I mean, if they would have kept slavery, I don't think we would be as far as we are now in terms of, you know, technology advances. You know, because, you know, when we were doing farming, wheat was able to be processed faster. You didn't need people in the fields. It was able to be processed by machines. And then, you know, apples and cleaning stuff, all this stuff. That's why the Industrial Revolution was important. Yeah. So slavery was just out of fashion. It was not profitable no more. You got a machine that can do what 20 people can do twice as fast. You know what I mean? So it is. And
slavery still exists here and elsewhere, but America is built on slavery.
Oh yeah, and it's quite unfortunate. But you know what? Let's read some of the comments before we end this segment. So this was released by Real DL Hughley. He said, I guess white women found out they are DEI. Mel Aninmoro, you voted for him because you thought his policies would only affect people you don't like. That is true. Everybody's using this meme because she did tell everybody what was happening, so she was like, whatever. Jess Vegas 77 said, you lose all chances at sympathy when your argument is basically, I thought Trump would hurt people, but I never thought Trump would hurt me. That's true. Astrid CE says, was regret in the room? All I see is I was okay with you doing it to everyone else, but it's a problem now that you're doing it to me. Who else? John Murray said, concepts of thoughts and prayers. Antonio's Kitchen, ain't nobody egging your house as much as eggs cost. Stop it. So, you know, it's just, I think that people don't feel any sympathy, and I don't blame them for not feeling any sympathy.
That's a funny comment.
They are, have you been to the store lately? Those I said,
$10 for a dozen eggs.
oh, what's that store? Whole Foods.
Oh yeah.
I think the eggs, it was 1938. I said, what type of eggs is 1938?
Hold on, but we're in March. So by the end of summer,